Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Dutch spiral with some 8x4 Bicone beads. Now you will find these in your Golden Harvest treasure bag. However, I have a bunch of them online too in a bunch of different colors, so if you want to purchase some you can, and you can make this along with me. Now I'm also going to be using a 4mm round that was in the treasure bag. Of course I have those in a bunch of colors too, so you can get those if you'd like, or you can use something you've already got in your stash. That'll be just fine. So this is what the Dutch spiral looks like with a bicone. Now I've wanted to do a spiral with this bicone for a while. I thought I could do a Russian spiral, but it's too tight and too close for the width of these beads. But a Dutch spiral has a lot of movement in this area. Normally you just do a whole bunch of seed beads, and you could even increase your seed beads and get it wider all the way through. I've used the basic first stitch, graduated up to the size of bicone, and then just continued that size. There's lots of modifications you can do with this particular spiral, and because these beads are looser and give flexibility to the weave, the bicones work really good in it, and you can see they're really pretty. Let me put this on my wrist. I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll go to the material list portion and get started. Let me get this on. I can't do it. Hang on. I promise I'm gonna get my poop in a group here. Okay, that's what it looks like on the wrist. Mine is just a little bit bigger. I think a little bit big. I think I would have gone maybe one less unit, a couple less units to make mine a little bit smaller, but it fits fine. Looks good. It's a gorgeous little weave, and that's what that looks like. Let's go ahead and see what we need to get started. Okay, for this project today we'll be using some of the beads found in the Golden Harvest treasure bag. However, these are very common sizes and types of beads, and you can do this project regardless if you have the treasure bag or not. I do have some of these elongated bicones on the website, so if you want some you can get some. And let's go ahead and look at what we're going to use. So we're going to use the full strand of the elongated bicone. This is 8x4 bicone, and then we're going to be using the full strand of 4mm round. This is called Autumn Brown, but I have something similar if you like this on the website called Goldenrod. I believe it's dark goldenrod or something like that. So you'll need a 4mm round, regardless of the color. You need an 8x4 bicone. You will need 2 colors of 8/0 seed beads. This is an antique bronze, and this is light beige, and they are both Toho. Then we'll be using a few 11/0 seed beads, and this is also antique bronze. We'll be using a clasp, and because I'm changing my colors from platinum to an antique bronze in this particular project, I'm going to use an antique bronze toggle. So I'll be using a toggle, and then I'm going to use 8-pound Fireline for this, simply because we're using crystals in a weave that kind of exposes the edge to the thread. So I'm going to use a heavier thread, and I think I want to have the thread kind of blend deeper in with the tones, so I'm going to use the smoke Fireline. So it's basically black thread. I'm going to be using a size 12 beading needle. You can also use a size 10. That will work fine for this project. And we're going to start with a wingspan of thread. However, you will need to extend your Fireline during this process. So I will put up a link in the description box beneath the video player that shows you how to do that if you do not know how. And we're going to start with at least a wingspan, like I said. So put your arms out to your sides like they're wings. Measure from the fingertips of the first arm, the length of that arm across your chest, the length of the second arm, and to your fingertips on that arm. Then thread your needle, and we'll get started. Okay, so to start this stitch, we're going to start with 11/0 seed beads, just to have the narrow ends that we need for the ends of our project, and then we will move into our bicones. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up onto our needle. We're going to pick up a 4mm round first. This can also be a 4mm bicone if you'd like it to be. Then we're going to pick up two 11-0 seed beads, and then we're going to pick up two 8-0s, and I'm going to use my beige, and then I'm going to use my bronze, like this. Let's get you in a little closer. Let's bring these down to the end of the thread. Let me adjust my camera just a little here. Bring this down to the end of the thread. You don't have to leave a long tail. Well, actually, you do. Let's leave about a 6 to 8 inch tail. We can extend it to put our ends on if we need to, which we will need to. And then we're going to go back through the 4mm round that's on the tail here. So just come through this 4mm round, hold onto your tail, hold onto your bead, and just pull your thread around, retaining a nice length of tail. Then we're going to sew back through these beads just to make sure they're secure. So from the 4mm round, this is my tail, this is my working thread. I'm going to go into the two 11-0 seed beads here. And then I'll just sew around the rest of them, go into the two 8-0s, and then back into the 4mm round. Now we don't want to tie a knot because we don't want to block this bead here, because we're going to have to work our ends out of that bead. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start the weave, and we're going to pick up two 11-0 seed beads, and then we're going to pick up our first 8-0 also. So since I'm using beige, I'm going to pick up my beige. You're going to pick up the color you're going into. So we will pick up the beige bead, go into the beige, the first one here, and pull these down. Now, because the ends can get messed up, push that on top just to start our weave going up, because we want our ends to be nice and neat when we're finished. Let me get you in a little closer even. And now this is the part that gets confusing. When you pick up your next bead, you'll pick up your bronze because you're going into a bronze bead. And we're going to go between these two beads. So we're going to go from the bead we're coming out of into the next bronze bead. And we're going to bring down a bronze bead in between those two 8-0s. Push it somewhat up again so that you can keep your ends nice and neat. Now, we're coming out of this bronze bead, we're going to pick up a 4mm round bead and go into it. And again, it's going to look really sloppy and weird. So just kind of push it up, push all this stuff up, keep it as clean looking as you can. Now, we are coming out of the 4mm round bead here. I'm just going to keep kind of coning this, coming out of the 4mm round. I'm going to get you even closer. So what we need to do is this time we're going to pick up three 11-0 seed beads, because we're going to build this section longer. We're never going to sew back through these beads, we're just going to pick them up. And then we're going to pick up our next bead in line. So since we're going through these, we're going to go through this one. You will always pick up the bead you're going to go through next. So we're going to go through it with an 8-0 of the beige color, and we're going to pull these down. Lay them on top of the previous beads. Now we're coming out of the two beiges here, or we're coming out of the beige here. We are going to pick up our bronze, because we're going to go into this bronze here. We're going to ignore this bead down here, and we're going to go into the sticking out bronze one, because this is the previous level, this is the new level. So we're going to go into the bronze bead and pull it. And that's where you can get confused, because it looks like you should go into that bead, but you don't. Now we are going to we're going to go into our 4mm round, so we have to pick up a 4mm round bead. And we'll go into the one that's sticking out the most here. and we'll cup this again. As we pull this up, let's just cup it all, keeping our beads in line so that at the end of the project, none of your beads are in funny places. So now I've cupped it up like this, and you can see I have a rather large space here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 4 11, or actually let's do 3 again. Let's pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, and we're going to pick up another of our 8-0s. So we always pick up the 8-0 and go into the next 8-0, ignoring the previous 11-0s. So we're going to go into this 8-0 here and pull this through. And again, I'm going to cup it and straighten it out just to keep my ends nice and neat. Now I'm coming out of this 8-0, I'm going to go into this sticking up bronze 8-0. So because I'm going into a bronze, I'm going to pick up a bronze and go through the sticking up bronze. Get good tension, straighten it up. And then we're coming out of this bronze, we need to go up into this 4mm round. We're going into a 4mm round, so we're going to pick up a 4mm round. So we're going to go directly into this 4mm round. It's hard to hold on to at this point, guys. And then just pull. Get a little tension, don't pull it completely out of whack, pull it gently. And now you're coming out of this 4mm round. It's time to pick up another series of our 11-0 seed beads. So we're going to pick up 4 this time. And we're going to go into and pick up an 8-0. So remember, we always have to have the bead we're going into. Since we're ignoring the 11-0s, we have to pick up the bead we're going to go into and go into that bead on the piece. Just like this. Now, this is prepping the end, making it a little bit longer and making it sized to the beads we're going to use on this next round here. So once you've done a round with 4, it's going to switch into the bicones. So now we're coming out of the 8-0 seed bead here, and we need to pick up a bronze 8-0 and go into the next bronze 8-0 that's sticking up. Pull this down, and you can see it's cupping and it's turning into something halfway decent here. Just look at your beads, make sure they're nice and neat, and then, because it'll help in the end when you're trying to attach to it to keep those nice and neat. Now we're coming out of the bronze, we pick up a 4mm round because we're going to go into a 4mm round. Now it looks like you should go into both of these. Do not. Just go into the one closest to where you're coming out of that bronze bead and pull this down. This time we're going to, instead of using 11-0s, we're going to pick up one of our bicones. So we're going to pick up this elongated bicone, and we're also going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead. And then we're going to cross over and go into the 8-0 on the other side of the 11-0s here. And pull it down. Now we're coming out of this 8-0. We need to pick up a bronze 8-0 and go into the next bronze. Now what you'll find here is as we pull these elongated bicones down, they kind of come in towards the middle a little, and that's okay. Just kind of set it on there and then continue your weave. So we just put on our bronze. We're coming out of a bronze, we're going to go into a 4mm round, so we know we need to pick up a 4mm round and go into the one sticking up closest to where you're coming out, just like that. Then we are going to pick up our bicone, and we're going to pick up our 8-0 seed bead. Once you come out of the 4mm round, you know that this is the combination you need. Then you go into the first 8mm round behind that bicone. pull it down, pile it on top of the previous one. And this is what I mean by it falling in towards the center a little. That's okay. That's starting the curve that makes this weave so pretty. So don't worry about that. That's what it's supposed to do. So we're coming out of this 8/0 here. We need to pick up a bronze and go into the next sticking up bronze. My thread is tight. Okay, so there we have that bronze in there. And then we need to pick up a 4mm round. So we're going to pick up a 4mm round, go into the next 4mm round. Okay, then we are going to pick up a bicone and an 8/0 because we're coming out of the 4mm round. We know we need our bicone and our 8/0. We skip over all of these beads and go into the 8/0 right after the previous bicone and pull this down. Get a little tension on your thread and then pick up a bronze 8/0 and go into the bronze 8/0 sticking up right here. Then pick up a 4mm round and go into the next 4mm round. Okay, where's your little hole? There you are. After each stitch, kind of clean up everything by putting a little tension on your thread. Tug on it just a little bit. Don't pull your beads apart, but keep it nice and tight. Then we are going to, because we're coming out of 4mm round, we need our bicone. Come here, bicone. And we need an 8/0 seed bead. We skip all this, go into the next 8/0 behind the previous bicone. Now you can see how it's kind of curving in. That's okay. Like I said, that is the pretty curve that we want for this particular stitch. Now we're coming out of this 8/0 here. We pick up a bronze. We go into the next bronze bead. Then we pick up a 4mm round and we go into the 4mm round. And from this point, it's pretty easy to hang on to. It's very repetitious and it's very easy to do. The beginning is just a little confusing and weird because the beads lay weird, but once you get to this point, you're good. So we're going to pick up a bicone and we're going to pick up a 8mm or an 8/0 seed bead and we're going to go into the 8/0s. I hope I've been calling them 8/0s and not 8mm. You never know. And pull that down. Now pick up a bronze and go into the sticking up bronze. Pull that down, tighten it up. Pick up a 4mm round. Come here, you little dude. Okay. 4mm round, go into the next 4mm round. It's Saturday, people are mowing outside. I'm sorry if you can hear that, but our whole neighborhood echoes with lawnmowers on Saturday. Okay, so I'm coming out of the 4mm round, so I know I need a bicone, and I know I need an 8/0, and I know I need to go into the next 8/0 behind the previous bicone. And pull this down, let it stack on top of the previous bicones, and like I said, it makes a strange shape. That's okay. Then we're going to pick up a bronze, go into the bronze. Pick up a 4mm round, go into the 4mm round. Pick up a bicone and an 8/0. And go into the, I picked up the wrong color 8/0. Pick up the proper color 8/0 and go into the 8/0 behind the previous bead that you have on your needle. Then pick up an 8/0 in bronze and go into the bronze 8/0. Pick up a 4mm round and go into the next 4mm round. At this point, you can see the spaces created to allow for the next bead. It makes it really nice. Now, I'm just going to show you what I have. So let's get in close, and you can see the spiral starting. You can see my 4mm rounds, how pretty my 8/0s lay next to each other, and you can see my 11/0s at the end. And they don't look quite as neat and organized, but they are neat and organized because I pushed them down. They're neater than they could be if you don't keep the end nice and neat as you do it. So that's what that looks like. And we're just going to continue doing our weave until we've used all of our bicones up. So there's about 72 bicones in one strand. We're going to go through the entire strand of bicones, and when we finish that, or we're close to finishing that, I will come back and show you how to transition into the 11/0s again and narrow your end so we can actually put some clasping on the ends here. Okay, so now you can see the fully developed spiral. It's really pretty. I think these elongated bicones are just perfect in this type of spiral. So now I have used almost all of my bicones in the one strand I had. I think I have about 3 left over. So that's about 69, 70 beads, something like that. You will judge how many you want to use according to the length of bracelet you want. Right now, I am at just a little over 7 inches with mine. And normally, this is where I would end my bracelet completely. And we still have a little bit to add, and we have to put our clasping on. The reason I'm letting it be a little bit longer, or actually to the length that I normally wear, is because of the wideness of this bracelet. If I back off and I wrap this around my wrist so you can see it, normally this would be the bracelet I would be able to clasp and have a little extra, but you can see I'm about 1 inch short. So that's how you want to end that. Give yourself 1 inch short of what will actually go around your wrist. And then once you have decided how long you want that to be, realize that we're going to put a couple more rows on just to narrow this down and end it. So you're going to get even a little bit more length. That will bring me to probably about an 8 inch, maybe a little over an 8 inch bracelet. And that will work okay because of the 1/2 inch that I'm losing around my wrist. So, because of the bulk. So what we've done now is I have finished my last row, and I'm coming out of my 4mm bicone where I would normally pick up, or my 4mm round bead, excuse me, where I would normally pick up my bicone and my 8/0 and start my next row. Instead of picking up another bicone, I want to narrow this back down, and I want to make it the same as the other side. So we did a row of 4 11/0 seed beads, and then actually we did 2 11/0s twice, 3 11/0s twice, and then a row of 4. We're going to reverse that. So we're going to pick up 4 11/0 seed beads onto our needle. And then we are going to pick up an 8/0. And we're going to cross over and go into the 8/0 just like we would if we had a bicone on here. And pull this down. Then we're going to finish our round by picking up a next bronze seed bead and going into the bronze seed bead that sticks up right here. Oh, why that seed bead's a little sticky there. And then we're going to pick up a 4mm round bead and go into the next 4mm round. Now that round is finished, and we're ready to start our next round. So, or our next row, however you want to call it. Now, we only did 1 row with 4, so now we have to reduce down to 3. We're going to pick up 3 11/0s and an 8/0. And we're going to go into the 8/0 behind the last 4 11/0s we put on. And then we're going to pick up a bronze and put it into the sticking up bronze. And then we're going to pick up a 4mm round bead and put it on. Now I am going to start my next row, and this time I'm going to pick up 3 more 11-0s because we did 2 rows of 3 on the other side. So we're going to pick up another 3 11-0s and an 8-0, and we're going to cross over into the 8-0 behind the previous 3 11-0s. Pull that down tight, pick up a bronze, and go into the bronze sticking up next to where you're coming out of. Then, of course, our 4mm round, and put him into the previous one. Now we have to reduce down to 2 11-0s. So we pick up 2 11-0s and an 8-0, and we go into the 8-0 behind the previous row 3 11-0s. And then we pick up a bronze seed bead and go into the sticking up bronze seed bead. And then, of course, our 4mm round. Well, get in there. Okay. So now we need to do one more with 2. So we're going to pick up 2 11-0 seed beads and an 8-0. And we're going to go into the 8-0 behind the previous 2 11-0s. And a bronze. And as you can see, this is getting more narrow on top here. We're going to pull that through. And now, instead of picking up another 4mm round, I'm going to go through this one right here. And then I'm going to go through these 2 here, these 2 11-0s. So I'm coming through this 4mm round from the previous row. I'm going to skip this one from the row before that. And then I'm going to go into these 2 11-0s and the 8-0 behind it, just like this. And pull this down. Then I'm going to go into this bronze seed bead, skipping this 11 or 8-0 here, go into this bronze. And then I am going to go into the 8 or the 4mm round again. So just one bronze into the 4mm round, and then pull this tight. That should draw that 4mm round right into the center here. Now, I am just to secure this a little bit more, just to make sure that my end isn't going to come loose. I'm going to do that again. So I'm going to go into these 2 11-0s here, this 1 8-0 of my beige color, this 1 8-0 of my bronze color, and then back into this 4mm round. And that is my end. So my 4mm round should be drawn pretty much into the center here. Now I can pick up, I'm going to pick up an 11-0, and then I'm going to pick up 2 8-0s of my light beige color and an 11-0. And I'm going to go into the opposite side of the 4mm round that I'm coming out of. And I'm going to pull these down, and they're going to kind of loop over the top of that 4mm round bead. Then I'm going to go back up into 1 11-0 and 1 8-0 on the side I'm coming out of. I am going to pick up 1 8-0 of my bronze color, and I'm going to pick up my clasp. And I'm going to draw this down to my beadwork. I'm going to go back into the 8-0 that's loose, and then into the 8-0 and 11-0 on the other side, opposite from where we started attaching, right here. Now I've drawn this down like this. I'm going to go into the 4mm round again. Whoops, sorry about that. And I'm going to sew through this a couple of times to make sure that it's nice and secure. So I'm going to go up through these two, the 11-0, the 8-0, the 8-0 underneath the clasp, into the clasp. Then I am going to go into the 8-0, underneath the clasp, into the 8-0 and 11-0 on the opposite side. And back into this 4mm round bead that we're attaching to. Now, I want you to do that 1 or 2 more times to make sure this is nice and secure. We'll come back, tie this end off, and then we'll do the other side. Okay, so now you can see that I have secured my clasping and I'm coming out of the 4mm round here. Now, one thing I wanted to mention is you're set up for herringbone stitch here, and you could continue herringbone stitch and make a long length up the side here to go around your neck and make this into a necklace focal instead of a bracelet. And I'll show you on the other side how you would continue herringbone if you would like to do that. So instead of making a bracelet, or maybe you have more than one strand of these beads and you want to make a matching necklace, you can do that also. So what we're doing now is we're coming out of this 4mm round bead right here, the one on top that we ended our spiral with. There's a little thread bridge right here between the 4mm round and the first row with the 2 11-0s here. We're going to go underneath that thread bridge and we're going to make a loop, go through the loop and tie a knot. Then we're going to move ourselves down into these 11-0s, this 8-0 and the 8-0 behind it. And find another thread bridge. So right between these 8-0s and where this 11-0 row starts, there's a little thread bridge. I'm going to create a loop by going behind it, going through the loop, and then I'm going to go down into these 4 11-0s here, or 3 11-0s, whatever, and then into a couple of these 4mm rounds in the spiral. Now, you can knot it as much as you would like. You can sew around, you can put a knot here, or whatever. I'm going to go ahead and cut off here. Wow, that's a little long. Geez, Gina. Start a forest fire burning that down. Leave a little tag, grab your lighter, and melt it down so that it rolls away into the beads. I don't know if I was in camera, but you've seen me do that a million times. So just get the heat close, roll your little tag down. Hopefully I did all of that in camera. Of course, we're going to do the other side anyway, so you'll see that if you didn't. There is the finished end of the spiral. Looks pretty. Now we're going to go to this side. I did not leave quite a long enough tail, so I am going to go ahead and sew through my beads a little bit to get rid of the knot, come back and show you exactly how to end this. So if you left a long enough tail, just go ahead and put your needle on and go from there. I may have enough room, but yeah, better safe than sorry. So I'll be right back. Okay, so now, regardless if you extended or whatever you did, your tail thread should be coming out of this 4mm round right here that we very first started our row with. So we're coming out of one side, and we're going to pick up an 11-0 and 2 8-0s and an 11-0. And I'm going to show you very quickly how to continue a herringbone here. Then I'll pull that out and show you how to end the end just like the other side. So we've got an 11-0, 2 8-0s, and 11-0. We're going to go into the opposite side of this 4mm round here. Now that you've done this, you're going to sew up into, you can sew all the way around it again to secure it, but I'm just going to show you quickly. Come up through one, and then you can just pick up another set of 8-0s, whatever color you want, and then go back down into this side here. Go through the 4mm round, and then go back up through all these beads on this side. And to begin a herringbone, now you're just going to pick up 2 more 8/0 seed beads. This way you can make a necklace if you'd like. You're going to cross over from the one you're in, go into the one next to it, straight down into it. You're going to cross over and go up into the one next to the one you're coming out of, and then through both on this side. And then you'll just do that again. Cross over and go up. And you'll just continue doing this stitch until you have enough to go up around your neck and you can make a necklace. And that, if it twists or whatever going up around your neck, doesn't really matter because it's a herringbone and it'll look pretty regardless. You can do it smaller even. You can start with your 8/0s like I showed you and then go down into 11/0s. That would probably work even better for up around the neck. And do the same stitch all the way around. So I'm going to pull this out and I'm going to put the clasping on exactly the same way I did on the other side. Now we're all set up for it, just like we were for the other side. You can back up your video and watch the video again and make your clasping exactly the same way we did the other side, and we'll be back. Okay, so as you can see, I finished my clasping on this side, did it exactly the same way I did this side, knotted it off the same way, and this is what my bracelet looks like. Now, this turned out to be right around 8.5 inches, which because of the 1/2 to 3/4 inch that you lose wrapping it around your wrist because of the bulk of the bracelet, it's about 7 3/4. It's tiny bit too big for me, but really not bad. I'll show you. So I should have probably gone maybe a couple of units shorter, so it fits me and it's got movement. This is how my mother would love to wear hers. It had to have a bunch of movement. I like mine a little bit tighter around my wrist, but this works fine and it wears fine. It looks good. It's just a tiny bit bigger than I like to make for myself. So next time I think I would go maybe 2 more units shorter. So instead of leaving like off 3 of my beads for my strand, my bicones, I'd leave off like 5 probably, and make it a little bit smaller. Also, my clasping is big. I could use a smaller clasp and lose a little length that way too. So that gives you some idea of how it will end up. As I do these, I'm usually designing them. My next one is the one that's perfect, fits just right, so on and so forth. My first one, I'm designing, figuring it out. So I can pass on to you what I would do differently the next time. So this is what this looks like. And let me take it off and give you another look at it. It's just really pretty. I think it turned out really nice. And let's get it centered and zoom in on it a little bit so you can see how pretty it is. And that is our project for today. If you enjoyed this tutorial and you would like to see more, please consider subscribing, hit the notification bell, and perhaps even a like if you liked it. Thank you very much. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.